Hi, I'm Heather Campbell, and I'm the children's director here at Oakwood. I grew up as a fourth-generation Christian. My family attended church together for most of my childhood, and when I say attending, I mean if the doors were open, we were there. That usually included Sunday mornings, Sunday nights, and Wednesday night prayer meetings. There were many Saturdays spent there working on cleanup projects, and one summer, my mom and grandparents painted the outside of all the church buildings by hand. Now, if any of you know me, you know that there's no way any of those characteristics ever got passed on to me. Okay, maybe just a little, but that is not what I consider my Christian legacy. My grandmothers and mother modeled in their daily life Deuteronomy 6:6-9, and part of it reads that you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your might, and these words that I command you today shall be on your heart. You shall teach them diligently to your children, and shall talk of them when you sit in your house, when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise. Above all else in their upbringing of me, they continued to show me Jesus. He was everywhere. They didn't miss an opportunity to point out how he was at work in the lives of my family and the world. They spoke of him in creation. They prayed for the driver that cut them off, or the rescue workers assisting in an accident. They followed missionary stories and prayed for their needs, and then pointed out when and how he answered. When I struggled in school, they listened with love and then prayed for me and the one I was in conflict with. My upbringing wasn't easy, but it was faith-filled. I remember praying with my family one night that he would provide what we needed. I was young and I wasn't exactly sure what that was, but when the doorbell rang later that week and it was a church member bringing us a box of food, the tears in my mom's eyes told me that God had answered. There was a youth pastor that spoke at a retreat, and he told of how God did not have grandchildren. I had to let that sink in a bit. He went on to explain that we could not get to heaven simply by thinking and going along with Christian behaviors and convictions that our parents or grandparents had. Accepting Christ's atoning love and sacrifice was an individual decision that we had to make. It was from a personal desire to thank the Lord for what he'd done that we love and serve in the church and the world. This was eye and heart opening for me. I'd asked Jesus into my heart when I was young, but it was during this time of that childlike faith that I was suddenly drawn with this personal conviction and deeper than I had ever known. And he became my Savior for my faults and my sins and my shortcomings. And serving in the church after that wasn't because my family was already there, but because I wanted to be there. My prayer life wasn't repeating their prayers, but keeping my own journal and looking for him to answer when I prayed. Through the years, it had been my generational Christian upbringing that created the framework of Christian legacy. But in order for me to transmit that same love of the Lord to my children, I must be intentional. My main goal as we live in the rest of the week is to show my children how God shows up and is faithful. He's always there in my failures, in my triumphs, in creation, and he's always faithful. I want my children to see him at work in my life and theirs. Parenting isn't easy, and for me, I've always had a great cloud of witnesses before me that led the way in prayer and actions. They were not perfect, but they served a God who was. If you're a first-generation Christian trying to raise children to love and fear the Lord, you get to begin to build that legacy. Your children can grow up in the framework of the Lord's worldview with a heart for others who need him. I pray the Lord will also allow some generations of legacy to come alongside you and walk with you in your journey. He called you for it, and he will be faithful to equip you through it.